Again, my name's Austin. I'm on the support team here at My Race Pass. Last night you heard from Dakota. He's the other member of the support team here at My Race Pass. Last night he talked season management and getting started. Tonight we talked. Tonight we'll talk all about race management. And apparently I'm having microphone issues. Give me half a second here, and I know what to do to fix that. Okay, that should help the cause. All right, perfect. So appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll talk all race management here tonight. So we'll go ahead and we will get started. This live recording will be available here in our promoter support group, and it'll also be recorded and put on our YouTube page. All webinars that we do are on our YouTube page. So go to youtube.com, search My Race Pass. You can see all of the webinar recordings that we have done. If you have any questions here tonight, please put them in the promoter support or in the chat. Excuse me. Please put those in the chat here in the promoter support group. I've got a couple of other people here monitoring that chat. If you'd also please put what tracker series you're with, that helps us a bunch as well. So put track series that you're with in the comments. If you've got questions, put them in the comments. If you're watching this after the fact and you find you have questions, email support at myracepass.com and we'll be happy to help you out there as well. But tonight, talking race management, right? Race night management. When you're at the racetrack, at the back gate, what happens there? I'm starting in the setup tab. It's the first tab you come to when you come to race management, right? I've got a test event for today. You can see the classes that I've got available here. And you're really deciding just a couple of things here in the setup tab. You're deciding what happens with the pill draw, and you're deciding what happens with transponder options. So I'll go through the pill draw options here. And a lot of these are pretty self-explanatory, right? No pill draw, an auto draw before or after you find the driver, an auto draw during the driver check-in process, or there's manual entry options before or after you find the driver. So those are available there as well. Whatever you change here, you can always save as defaults for the next time you use this class as well. So theoretically, you really should only have to look at this screen one time. There is other pill draw options that I'll talk about here. Max pill is at the bottom, and that's pretty self-explanatory. Whatever you want the maximum pill draw number for the range, right? So the range always starts at 1. If you want 50 pill options, put in a 50 here. If you want 100, put in 100. The rebase pill is a little bit different. Rebase pill exists down here, and it was the new low pill number. So a lot of racetracks, what they'll do is they'll do regular pill draw when the drivers sign in, and then like at pit meeting or something, they'll draw a poker chip for what will be the new low pill draw number. So if I put like a 26 in here, 26 would become the new 1. Everything else would move chronologically after that, right? So 26, 27, all the way to 100, and then we would start over at 1. So 25 would end up being your new highest pill, things of that nature. Those are the pill draw options. Transponder options, again, no transponders or use transponders, and if you're using transponders, we're allowing rentals or not allowing rentals, that type of a deal. There is also an option under race options here for the default number of competitors per row. So if you're always going to have them single file, or you're always going to have them 3 wide or 2 wide, you can have that here in race options. Be aware, though, that if you leave this at 2 and you put in a race that is qualifying or time trials or hot laps or something like that, that race type will always automatically default to single file. So that'll always be 1. You won't ever have to worry about changing that here. And then required registration is really interesting. If you're requiring your drivers to register either on an annual registration or on an event-specific registration, you can use this required registration to only apply points to those who did register. So you can use it as a license or a membership check and only apply points to the members, which is a pretty handy feature there at the end of a race night. So that's there and available for you. I'm going to move on here. MRP Live is the next tab. I'll come back to MRP Live here in a moment. I want to get my entries and lineups done first. So I've got an entry screen here. And I've got 2 classes added to this event. I'm going to use my MRP stock car class for everything, but you can see that there's a toggle at the top of the screen to toggle what class you're using. So this is the entry screen, right? This is at the back gate. Driver shows up on race night. You're putting them in the entry list. I really want to emphasize that this is different than registrations that we talked about yesterday in season management. Registrations is a way to gather driver information either before the season or before an event, whereas entries is a way to put them in the race night entry list. So I know that, you know, the naming convention might be different place to place. The naming convention might be different, you know, around the country, but that's how we do it here. Registrations is you know, before the season or before an event, gathering driver information, and entries is race night entry list. So to add a driver to the entry list, there's 3 different ways to find a driver. First is the search at the top of the screen. So if I hit search, it's just a string of text, right? As I start typing a name, search results appear, and you know, you can choose the driver that you're looking for based off of those search results. So I type in name, there's driver information. There is a create new option out of the search. So you can create driver profiles here. I will say that shouldn't come up a whole lot. Every driver who's ever raced at any track that uses My Race Pass will already have a driver profile. So you shouldn't have to create new all that often. If you do need to create new, this is where you can do it. And I'll also say, if you come across a driver who clearly has multiple profiles, the duplicate profiles, let us know. Email that to support@myracepass.com. Let us know what driver, that kind of thing. That way we can merge them together. So that's the first way to find a driver, is out of the search. Second way to find a driver is the scan barcode option. For those of you who are, a sanctioned track with various sanctioning bodies, you'll know that a lot of the sanctioning bodies that use My Race Pass will send out a hard card when a driver registers. It's got a barcode on the back. You can scan that barcode to bypass the search process, right? Brings up the driver profile associated with that barcode automatically. We can send those cards out to you if you want to use that. And then also, if a driver claims their profile, that barcode will also be in the app for that driver. So they just display their app to you. You can scan the barcode, bypass the search process. Third way to find a driver is this competitors list on the left-hand side of the screen. This competitors list will show you a list of drivers who have raced with you before in that class or who have registered in that class. So anyone who's run with you before and it's class specific or filled out one of your season management registrations will show up over here. So if you can get your guys to register in advance, it's find them. But regardless of how you find a driver, whether it's the competitors list, the barcode, or the search option, click on the driver, and this is the screen that comes up, okay? And there's a lot here, but there's really 4 pieces of information that we need to put somebody to an entry list. First is the pill draw number. If you have it set to manual entry, you'll have to type something in here. I have it set to auto draw, drew this driver a 97, I can't edit that field, that's the pill draw number for a night. If you don't do a pill draw and you've got pill draw turned off on the setup tab, then you won't have to worry about this. Second thing in here is car number. Every driver has to have a unique car number. The program will not allow duplicate car numbers per class. So if Benny here goes in here as number 2 and somebody else shows up and says they're number 2, you'd have to put like an X or an initial or something like that behind their number so that it is unique for that driver in that class. You can save this as default. So if you know he's going to be number 2 every time he signs in, check the default checkbox. You're all set there. Next option is owner. Owner information comes up in 2 circumstances. One, if you're doing owner points, then you would put a car owner in there for every driver, right? Then every driver needs a car owner. So if it's a driver owner, if there's not a separate car owner, like if I go in here as Austin Lloyd you'd have to put Austin Lloyd Racing as the owner so that when you calculate owner points, every owner has the opportunity to be in those point standings. So that's one option. Not a lot of people do owner points, so that doesn't come up a whole bunch. Second way that this comes up, much more common, is if someone other than the driver is getting paid, right? So if Benny goes in here, but the payout goes to someone else, whoever that someone else is needs to be listed as the owner here, and however that name appears on the check, right? If that's a driver's LLC, if that's a different person's name, if that's a business name, however you're going to handle that, whoever needs to be on the check needs to be put in the owner field. That way, at the end of the year, when you run our 1099 report, all of the payees that made more than $600 are listed on that report accurately, right? So we have the same owner for that driver every week, so they're accurate on our 1099 report to make that make sense, right? So if I go in here and I hit the search next to the owner name, it brings up every owner that driver has ever had, which, for a demo driver is only the demo one. But if I switch to all owners, then I can search through our entire database of owners and find the owner profile that's right. So right, if they're racing for Kasey Kahne, I can type Kasey Kahne Racing. There's the owner profiles for Kasey Kahne Racing. So you can do it that way. So again, PIL, car number, owner, and owner only applies if you're doing owner points or if someone other than the driver is getting paid. And the only thing that we'll worry about after that is transponder number. And that is what it sounds like. Type in the transponder number. If they're renting from you, click the box that says transponder rented. If they're not, it's their own. Use the using as default transponder checkbox. That way it shows up every time that driver signs in. And same thing can go for car owner as well. You can make that default and you can check the box for payout goes to owner. So again, there's a lot here, but there's really only 4 things that we need, right? PIL, car number, owner, transponder number. There are a few other things in here that I'll go through as well. First is this confirm memberships over on the left. That will show you if that driver registered or not. So if you're in season management, you got a registration form out there, driver fills it out, it'll be listed here in confirm memberships. Easy visual indicator that driver has registered. And then the other thing that I'll highlight here is lineup override. You can use this to make sure that this driver starts in the back either for the heat races or for all races. So if you've got a rookie driver or somebody shaking down a new car or something like that, you can use lineup override for that. Payment amount, payment method, and contingency information are really seldom used features. I'm not going to put a lot of time into that. But that's really everything that there is here in this entry screen, right? So now I've got driver entered, right? He's in the event. So when I come over to the My Race Pass app, I'm on today's event, your favorite track. I can see now this updates immediately. I click on the stock car class. I can see Benny, who just registered. I can tap on his name, and I'll be able to see his car number, his hometown, the PIL draw number, his transponder number, all of it. All of that information is there and available in the app. So as you continue to put drivers in your entry list, that'll continue to update for you. So I'm just going to put 10 cars in my entry list here using the speed entry option, and we'll have ourselves a 10-car race, right? One other thing that I will highlight on this screen is at the very bottom of the screen, you'll see an option that says import from previous race. So if you're having a multi-day event, it's very simple. Click that button there at the bottom of the screen, import from previous race, and you'll be able to copy the entry list basically from one night to the next. Making it very simple and straightforward and quick for you to be able to do multiple entries there. The other thing that I'll highlight on this screen is that on the right there's an edit button. You can choose the edit button to edit the entry, to change his name or hometown if he moved or his name is spelled wrong or something like that. Edit name city, and you can edit that. Now, just so you're aware, if you go to edit the name or hometown, that has to go through an approval process here at My Race Pass, so it probably won't change on race night for you, but it'll change early in the week the following week, and it'll, subsequent events, it'll be accurate the way it's supposed to be. So make sure you go through that information and tell us if something needs changed. But beyond that, that's the entry list. Next tab I'll take you to is the races tab. Races is where I'm going to start setting my format for the night, right? So what types of races am I going to run? You can copy from previous here, right? So, 319, 10 entries, a heat and a feature. If you're doing the same thing, copy from previous. That's fine. But I'm going to go ahead and add from scratch here so you can see what that looks like. You can add features, heats, dashes, qualifying races, hot laps, whatever you want to add here, right? Anything you're running. So for this demo, I'm just going to make it really simple, right? I'll add qualifying, and I'll add an A feature. If you had enough cars, you might have a B feature. If you're running heat races, you can have however many you want of those. All that kind of stuff is there. You can set a number of laps here in this screen. So I'll put in 20 laps for my A feature. A feature will be 20 laps long. But however, one thing that I will tell you is if you're running a qualifying race, do not put a number of laps in that box. A lot of people's initial reaction will be to put a 2 there. Qualifying, everybody gets 2 laps, right? But what that'll do is that'll checkered flag that race in your scoring system after the first car, and that's not what you want, right? That'd be a bad thing. So just leave laps blank there. That way you can just manage it however you need to manage it in your timing system. But I'll go ahead and add. And now that I've got my races added, what I can do is I can change the name of your race, right? So if you need to call it time trials instead of qualifying, if you need to call it a last chance showdown instead of a B feature, change the name of your races here. You can also add race sponsors, right? So you got your Bob's Garage qualifying, whatever else. You can add race sponsors here in this screen. But the most important part of this screen, and the thing that is the most common thing that I get calls about on race night, is this transfers box. People forget to set transfers a lot. So in this screen, you tell the program how many cars move from one race type to the next. So for me, this is fairly simple, right? I'm going to transfer them all from qualifying to my A feature, and that'll be my event. But if you've got enough cars, you can take your top 5 per heat to the A feature or something like that and set your transfers that way. The from group option exists here as well. If you've got from group selected, that works in conjunction with a passing points format. So if you're using passing points to line up your A feature, you'll use from group here, because instead of transferring cars per heat race, what we're doing is we're grouping all of the competitors together into one group, applying points, and taking our top, 16 or 20 to the feature as opposed to 5 per heat, if that makes sense. I'm going to leave it at per race here, though, because I'm not using passing points in this demo. You can also change your drivers per row. You can see for qualifying, it defaulted to 1 already. Everything else will follow what you had in the setup tab. Next step for me then is lineups. Lineups, straightforward, right? This is our qualifying order. Now, I know for a lot of asphalt tracks, you guys don't really have a qualifying order. A lot of dirt tracks, the qualifying order is very important. But if you don't have a qualifying order, I understand, but my race pass still requires a qualifying lineup in order for that lineup to get pushed to your timing system. So you still have to have something in here for an order. Even if you don't follow it, even if it doesn't matter, you have to have a lineup. So when I calculate lineups, by default, my top option is qualifying from pill draw, but if I go to all lineups, I can have it qualifying from pill draw. I can have it based off their hot lap time, based off their last name, based off point standings, completely random order, whatever you want to do, right? There's a lot of options. If you don't typically have a qualifying order, choose random if it doesn't matter. That's just fine. Whatever you want to do, right? But I'm going to do it from pill draw, calculate. There's my lineup, okay? Before I send this to my timing system, I want to show you a couple of things. First, if I come to the app, so let me bring my phone screen over here. If I come to the app, I can choose lineups at the bottom of the screen. I can now see for my wing sprint cars, obviously I have lineups created from previous. For my MRP stock cars, this takes a little while to update. There, it just did. There's my qualifying lineup ready to go. So I can see everybody in my qualifying lineup. And if the order matters, then people can see their qualifying order. All of that stuff is there for you. I've also got another option under tools that I like to use at the racetrack in the pit area. It's called the lineup monitor. Every time you calculate a lineup, it shows up on this screen. Every time you save results as completed, it disappears from this screen. So basically, this will update automatically every few seconds, and it'll only show you the upcoming lineups. So if you've got somewhere that you need lineups posted, you can go ahead and use this screen to post those lineups. That way, if you're paying someone to write lineups on a whiteboard or staple them somewhere, have that person do something else, right? So that screen's valuable. Now, the question becomes, okay, how do I get this information into my timing system? Well, we use a program called MRP Live to do that. So MRP Live, there's a tab dedicated to it. You can download and install this application and do that on the same machine that your timing system is running on, whether that's Race Manager or Orbitz. However you want to handle that, put it on the same machine that Race Manager or Orbitz is running on. What that does is that allows your entry and lineup data into your timing system, your results data back into My Race Pass, and it'll also allow live timing and scoring to work in the app. So again, download, install on the same machine Orbitz is on. I'm going to use Orbitz as my timing system in qualifying. When I'm done with the qualifying results, I'll shut all this down and turn on Race Manager so that no matter what you're using, you'll be able to see in this demo, right? So if you're using Orbitz, this applies to you now. If you're using Race Manager, we'll get to your part in just a second. So I'll open Orbitz, and again, we download and install MRP Live on the same machine that Orbitz is on. To connect the two, very simple. Orbitz has the distribution tab, right? There's a scoreboard feed there. That scoreboard feed has an IP address and a port number. You want to make sure that the scoreboard feed is enabled. So that means that this dot shows up green, right? If you've got it disabled, and a fresh install of Orbitz will always have it disabled by default, that dot shows up red. Then you can't connect MRP Live. Then you call me and ask why. More often than not, it's because this not enabled here. So you want to make sure this dot shows green, that we're enabled, and you take the IP address and the port number, and you type it into MRP Live at the top of the screen. IP address, port number. Port number is basically always 50,000. IP address typically doesn't change unless your internet connection changes or you got a different laptop or something. Typically doesn't change. So this should be set, basically, right? IP address, port number, check the box for Orbitz. Don't really have to worry about this again. So the thing that'll be most important for you every race night is this connection code. Every event in My Race Pass will generate its own specific and unique connection code. So on race night, you can click launch from web. It'll open MRP Live with the connection code built in. Otherwise, you can copy and paste the new connection code and connect. Now that I'm connected, the only thing left to do is to take my data, and let me delete the old data that I've got in here, take my data and move it to Orbitz. How do I do that? All I have to do in MRP Live is press Get Lineups, right? I've calculated my lineups. Now I'll press Get Lineups. Once I've pressed Get Lineups here, I just import them. So instead of managing a driver database in Orbitz, I'm going to import my groups. That's all my class data. I've got 2 classes on this event, so imported both at the same time. And then I can import my runs. That's my race lineup data. So I'll import groups first. I'll import runs second. Now I've got my qualifying run here ready to be timed. Everything's ready to go. So let me open up the track simulator in Orbitz so we can run ourselves a fake race. And now we're being timed, right? So, a couple of things that I'll show you here. In MRP, in the app, right? So we'll start at home. In the app, now I can see that I've got live timing ready to go. So I tap live timing, and I can see the timing data for this race as it's running with about a 0.3 of a second delay for my timing data, right? So as they cross the line, you can see all of this update. It's all there and available for you. So we'll stop that. We'll checkered flag the race, and stop that as you normally would. Stop timing for qualifying 1. Perfect. Now when I come back to my race pass and I go to the results tab of my race pass, all I have to do at the top of the screen is import this. Okay? Click the link to import my timing results. There we go. It's a straight data dump directly from Orbitz. So I can save as completed, and that race is completed. You DNF, DNS, DQ, black flag, all of that. It's all available there for you to change. Once you've got that changed the way you need it to be, then you're all set, right? Then I can come back to lineups. Qualifying's done, so I'm going to calculate my lineups again for my A feature. There's a lot of ways to do lineups, right? If you have questions about how you should do this, please contact us. Please, support at myracepass.com. But I'm going to do it from qualifying, right? A feature from qualifying, because we just qualified, so we might as well run our main event off of that. So I'll calculate there. This is also, I'll point out lineup options here just for a moment. Lineup options allows you to do inverts and redraws, right? So if I'm going to redraw the top 5, I can say I'm going to redraw 5. Next, I'll auto redraw them here. There's my new lineup order. The same thing is true of an invert. If I was going to invert 5, I could do the same darn thing. So there's my new lineup. Now when I go to tools, to this lineup monitor, it'll actually show me the A feature now instead of qualifying, right? Because qualifying's done, the A feature's ready to go. I think I already had lineup monitor up. Yep, so you can see that. Then all I have to do is import, get lineups, and it'll be there. I said that I would do this part in Westhold, though, and I forgot that. So now let me close everything for Orbitz, and let me disconnect MRP Live and all of this stuff, and I will open Race Manager, and we'll show you that process in Race Manager. All right, so in Race Manager, connecting the two is very similar. Race Manager has a setup tab, and in that setup tab, again, you'll find a port number, you'll find an IP address. The port number is basically always 50,000. That doesn't change. Again, find the IP address, type it into the box, select the other bubble now, and we should be all set and ready to go. So I'll connect those and see if I messed anything up here. I might have messed something up here. Okay. Let me completely close MRP Live and try that. So normally at a racetrack, you won't close and reopen one timing system to get to another, so you'll never really have to worry about this part of things. You'll just stay connected the whole night. But let me try this again. Race Manager, we all should be all set there. Perfect, okay. So now when I press Get Lineups, there's an Assign tab in Race Manager. So let me delete the previous data here from Race Manager. So I'm starting with a blank event, right? Nothing in it. So now when I press Get Lineups in MRP Live, all I have to do to get them is to go to Setup and then back to Assign. And now I've got a competitors list for all classes, a competitors list for each individual class, and then every lineup that I've got created, which is just right now for me, A Feature 1. So I'll time that the same way. Pre-start, start, we're all good. While that's timing, I showed you the live timing views in the app. I also want to show you the lap viewer on desktop. And I show you this because I'd like you to put this in front of your announcer, right? I want your announcer to have more information at his disposal. So this will show you the running order. This will show you the best lap view. This will show you the average lap time. This will show you the lap leaders as well. This will also show you the positions gained view if you're not using a demo profile, so you can see the plus minus of every position gained. So that average lap time, man, when you get the average over the last 3, and you can clearly see, hey, seconds faster than first by, a tenth or whatever, that's really good information to be able to have and make your announcer sound more knowledgeable on a broadcast. So that's done. Come back to Race Manager, checkered flag, and stop the race as we normally would. There we go. Now when I come back to the results tab in my race pass, it works the exact same way, right? There's a pending upload at the top of the screen that I click on to bring my results in. Now you can still manually manipulate this, right? If his transponder fell off, but he finished second, I can just drag and drop him up to second and resave, right? Or I can do my DNF, DNS, DQ, black flag, all that stuff. It's all here. It's all available for you. So we did one event in Orbitz. We did one event in Race Manager. Trying to get through our race night here. Last step to this is the points and pay tab. The points and pay tab closely follows the scheme that you put in. So you go to settings and you go to points and pay schemes. I can create my own point schemes. I can create my own pay schemes. And I can also create my own lineup point schemes as well. Lineup points only comes into play if you're using passing points. All this decides is passing points, right? But my championship point scheme, I can add whatever scheme I want. There's also global schemes that you can add. So if I go to a global or sanction scheme, if you're an IMCA track, we got the IMCA ones built in. Same with WISSOTA, same with USRA, same with some other popular ones, Crate Racing USA stuff. NASCAR's weekly points are in here, all of that kind of stuff, right? So if you're a NASCAR sanctioned track, a WISSOTA sanctioned track, POWRi, whatever, your scheme should already live in here. So when it comes to race night, when I go to add a points and pay group, I just select the point scheme that I want to use, right? So I'll choose NASCAR for this. I'll select the pay scheme I want to use. We'll say it's a sprint car race. And then all I have left to do is figure out if I'm applying points to competitors or owners or teams, right? So if I'm doing owner points, select the owner box. Points eligibility works in conjunction with the feature that I showed you on the setup tab that works as a license or membership check. So if your drivers filled out the membership or the license, points eligibility means I'm getting points to only licensed drivers or nobody. Or if you did not have a license, then you don't get points, right? So if I choose license points only, they should all disappear because nobody's registered, right? But if I manually select points eligibility, then I can toggle that myself. Go ahead and add. My points and pay are done, right? Points are finished. Pay is finished. If I need to manually adjust these, like if I'm going to give him, a $100 bonus for also being the hard charger or whatever, I can manually adjust and save. But as long as your schemes are correct, this should be a very quick process for you to be able to add points and pay. Last step to the race night is the create payments button. This pushes all of the payout data to my to my payout screen in season management. And what this allows is you to print checks, print report for drivers signing for their checks, export to QuickBooks, all that kind of stuff, right? So if I create checks here, I put in the check layout, enter the starting check number, and create. And this gives me a print. I can print to the top of the screen. So as long as you've got the check paper in the printer, you can print out checks, sign as they come out of the printer. Payouts go way faster. You can also print mailing labels. So if you're mailing out your checks after race night, mailing labels are there. How do you get their addresses, you ask? Well, you have them fill in a registration form. Use registrations to collect this information. You can also print a report for drivers signing for their payouts, right? So the payee is listed here. If the payee is a car owner, the driver's name is in parentheses, how much they were owed, the check number, and I just have them sign in the white space, and we move on to the next thing. And then I can also export all this information to QuickBooks as well. It downloads a .iif file that I can import into QuickBooks if you're using that to track your financials, right? And that's a race night, right? I always kind of say, then I can shut the lights off and go home. But that's running a race night. That is race management through my race pass. That's a lot of information quickly that I understand. If you have questions, please email support@myracepass.com. We want to make sure that you've got the right lineup scheme, that you know your races information, that all that kind of stuff is there. So when it comes to working an event in the tower, this goes smoothly and how you need it to go. We want to help your operation become as efficient as it possibly can. Beyond that, I want to talk to you about tickets, and I want to talk to you about websites. I'm going to do tickets on Thursday night. I'm going to do websites on Friday night. So please, promoter support group right here. It'll be available at that time. We're also going to put this in our YouTube page. All of our recordings go to our YouTube page. So please do that as well. I'm going to take a quick look at the chat here to see if there's any questions. Um, okay, so the first one I see is DQs. Um, DQs, you again, in the results tab, you can mark someone as DQ'd, right? So if sorry, Chris, you're getting DQ'd. Save is completed, pushes him to the bottom of the list. In my point scheme, if you're creating your own point scheme or payout scheme, I'll look at that here. And you can have the result modifier say DQs get no points. So if I've got a DQ and I go to calculate points and pay, it can automatically zero out his points and pay for the night because you selected the DQ checkbox. Can we practice most of this in Sandbox? You can do everything in Sandbox except connect MRP Live. MRP Live does not generate a connection code in Sandbox, so you have no option to connect MRP Live. Everything else you can do. You just have to manually do results. What's the best way to remove an entire race that already has a lineup? Remove the results first manually. So if I'm going to get rid of qualifying, remove the results from qualifying. Remove the lineup then from qualifying. I'll remove the lineup. Now that's gone. And now when I go to the races tab, now that I don't have results or lineups, now I can delete that race. So that's the best way to remove an entire race that already has a lineup. Just delete it, delete the lineup, and then remove it that way. If we're talking about removing an entire event, probably email us so we can do it in the database to make it go faster and easier. That is where I will end today. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. I really appreciate you taking time out of your evening. If you haven't yet, comment the track or series that you're with so we can better track who's watched. Yeah, see you back here in 2 nights' time to talk about tickets. Thanks, everybody.